Alright guys, welcome to the Decklist stream for this month's MSEM GP. And with here today we have Asti. And just Asti, no one else right now. But I don't mind because, I feel like Asti and I commentate pretty well together.
I tend to agree.
Yeah, so Asti, how much do you know about the format right now?
I mean, I've been hanging around. I've been watching games. I did not submit for this GP. I just forgot, and I didn't have a good deck list because I didn't feel like running back Ambitious Necromancer. So
I see.
But I feel fairly confident in my ability to comment on the format right now.
Okay, so yeah, Asti, what do you think about the nerfs so far this month?
I mean, there's really only one. I mean, there's really there's Soul Reader and Witch's Invocation.
Yeah, Witch
I think the only
Invocation.
ones.
But I
mean, that's a topic for you to speak on because that's
okay.
your card.
So Soul Reader, I mean, it's now an upkeep trigger instead of an end step trigger, which probably makes it a lot.
Honestly, not even really a nerf. Kind of a side. Like, upkeep means you can replay it immediately. It doesn't get immediate value, so if you kill it, you're slightly. If it gets killed, you're slightly sadder, but
it dies to sorcery speed removal now.
It does, but I think it's a minimal nerf. I think Soul Reader is still good.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Witch Invocation no longer draws a card on ETB. That's probably a bigger nerf than the other one.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely a bigger nerf.
You know, like, Witch Invocation was the noob trap for, what? Witch Invocation was considered a noob trap for almost, wait, it's 5 years at this, is it already 5 years now? 2019, 5 years ago?
I think earlier was 2020.
Well,
at least. That's still a long time.
Yeah. So
no, yeah, it was 2019.
So yeah, new prep for 5 years, then suddenly I make a deck that where it's actually good in, and now it just immediately gets nerfed next month.
Yeah. Draw step blocks aren't really optimal.
Well, I mean, it's optimal. It's optimal for me to draw step block the opponent.
Really I think it's not optimal for the format though, and especially ones that are as easily repeatable as that, where it's just you simply cannot play the game if it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Like Vendilion Click, you could use on draw step, and it'd be like, oh, that's the one time you use it. It's a body, so it's better, but still, it's only a one-time use.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so basically, my deck and Splash Hat's deck both got hit with nerfs, and I guess there's some other, like, oh yeah, Forge Pillar got nerfed. Forge Pillar is bad now.
Oh yeah.
It got nerfed.
Forge Pillar is bad now, which is really sad.
It no longer deals 2 damage to the player, it only deals 1 damage now. So yeah, probably not going to get played.
Just not bad. Like, just bad. I think you would rather just have, like, a 3 damage spell.
Yeah, definitely. Or I think you'd rather just have Metal Munch if you're trying to beat creature decks.
I have not seen Metal Munch in sideboards in a while, which I'm kind of surprised by. I feel like I don't see it in decks as much, but I guess the kind of burn that runs it just isn't really much of a thing right now.
Well, I mean, burn was on Fork Pillar before, but I mean, it might be on Metal Munch now because Metal Munch also synergizes really well with Neon Claw Knight, buffing the damage by 1, because then it deals 2 damage to 2 targets. So maybe this will see play over Fork Pillar and burn. But yeah, I guess there's like one extra nerf. Beyond the Veil got nerfed, but not in any meaningful way, except in this one deck that I played.
Yeah, it's not nerfed in the way people are using it, but in the theorized, like, time stands still Beyond the Veil.
Yeah, so no longer locks out lands from phasing in because time stands still. Like, because time stands still lets you phase out all lands, and then if you have like Beyond the Veil in play, then oops, there goes all the lands.
Yeah, not optimal. Not optimal.
It was pretty optimal for the Esper Kaelin deck to have that combo as a top end.
Yeah, not optimal for the format, as mentioned again.
Yeah.
Okay. At least in my opinion.
So I think that's long enough about life updates. I mean format updates. No, not life updates. It's format updates. Unless the format is your life, in which case, yes, this is a life update.
I think MSEM is your life a lot more than it is mine. At least a part of your life, much more.
Yeah. So yeah, let's actually get to the cards now, because we spent long, or the decks now, because we spent long enough on their intro or preamble,
Yeah.
whatever it's called. So
I
ask
mean,
you,
well,
are you taking care of the spreadsheet?
I can,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. Please do that for me, because then I don't have to point, because I need to point my camera at the deck list, so you can just go in the back and do the deck lists, or I mean the
Yeah, you have
spreadsheets.
to imagine having to record.
Yeah, imagine. Imagine having to record live, so you can't even edit out any mistakes.
Imagine.
Imagine.
Imagine. Well, let's imagine our first deck list, which is I'm just gonna go by the order when you open up the deck list tab,
Yeah, that's the best way to do it, because I'm not going to jump around.
which is Requiem's Seedborn Muse Tempo deck.
So, what is the Seaborn Muse?
Seedborn Muse is a card that, well, Seedborn Muse, the magic card, untaps all of your permanents during each other player's untap steps. We do have a Seedborn Muse, but it's expensive and kind of bad. But this deck emulates it by using the Sunrise lands, which you
I
can
see. That's
essentially lose one life to untap them during each other players' untap steps. It uses cards like Centered Acolyte to get value from doing that on your opponent's turns. Uses Cane Dancer because Cane Dancer is still good. Lots of counter magic, Spell Pierces and Validates. Runs Glimmer, which for Cane Dancer, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess it's good with a lot of things in the deck.
Embodied Soul as a big beater.
So I think
if you need one.
Is this deck unchanged from last time? Because I remember this
Not
being
that
the
I
last
can.
GP.
I've seen this deck archetype before. I don't know if there's been any changes to it though.
I should check. Was that Yeah, so I think someone got pretty far with it. Well, I guess I'm not looking because it's too hard. Anyways, yeah. So I think someone made top cut with this deck, so it should be pretty solid, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool.
I guess. Yeah. I think that's all we can say about it. So yeah, let's give our rating and move on. Where is it? Okay. The blue white tempo. I mean it's the same deck from last time. I'm going to give it 4 chili peppers now.
4 chili peppers. Yeah, I think I might be a little bit. Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit stricter just because I guess I haven't seen this deck get played before, so I don't know how it's gonna be. So I'm gonna go with let's give it 4 monasteries out of 5.
Cool, 4 monasteries. But
for the Centered Acolytes and Cane Dancers in the deck that are all monks.
Half the decks, half the creatures in the deck are monks and half of them are wizards.
The monks make more monks, so four monasteries out of 5.
All right, so moving on. Gao is running back Fireweaver sack.
Yeah.
I mean,
I support this deck just because when Fireweaver was hadn't been nerfed yet, I wanted to make a deck like this where you just pod your Fireweaver because it's a 4-drop you can play for 2, and then it goes really nicely into all the 2 mana stuff and things that sacrifice your Fireweaver.
Yeah. I think this deck's mostly unchanged from last time.
Yeah.
I'm just mousing over all the cards right now. Yep, it's mostly unchanged. So if a Gal is here, they'll be able to run us through all the lines in the deck. But like, if you haven't seen this deck before, because I don't think we've ever gotten this deck on camera, despite how much I want to get it on camera. It's you're trying to start a pod chain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pod Watcher.
And I mean, I don't think there's really much for me to talk about because I mean, we've already talked about this deck in previous Decklist streams, and I don't think anything has changed. So let's just give it 5 Pilly Purpose and move on because I still really want to get this thing on camera, and I've yet to get an opportunity to get this deck on camera.
Yeah, 5 pods out of 5 for me.
5 pods?
Yep.
P pods, is that?
Yeah, P pods. The concept of a pod is hard to get in an emoji, but a P pod gets the point across.
I mean, have you ever wondered why it's called pod?
Birthing Pod, the magic card?
Okay, yeah, it's because of Birthing Pod. I don't think
I've been playing Magic like for years, Ricky. Do you think I'm some kind of noob?
I wonder if there has been like pod effects before Birthing Pod, or if Birthing Pod was the first one.
Birthing Pod was definitely the best one. I don't think really pod is not a common kind of effect. Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, Canon only has what? I think Canon has more pods recently.
I mean, kinda. But they're all like pods, but like everything is not like Birthing Pod.
Because it's not good? Like, that's a big difference,
basically.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, the big difference is that they are bad.
Meanwhile, we have decent pods, I guess. Like, we used to have way better pods, but then nerfs happened. Probably due to me.
Happened.
Bans, yeah.
I don't know which one of them got nerfed.
Well, actually, yeah. I don't think any of the pods got nerfed directly. It's just that one of them got banned, and then the cards surrounding it all got nerfed.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on.
Let's move to 7 Nix's Surly's Tempest Trap.
Ooh, Suro. That's not something we see often.
No.
What does this do?
Now, notably, this deck, I don't think this deck works because it runs Wheat from Chaff, which does not target. So I don't think Surly's a valid first mate.
Not if you board out the Wheat from Chaffs.
Yeah, but then you don't get Surly game 1 ever, which I think is bad.
Well, maybe Surly isn't actually necessary for the deck to do things.
I don't think it is. I think this deck's a pretty a pretty functional reanimator deck that can just afford to have Surly in the board. Almost afford to have Surly in the board.
Wait, does answer? Can you what does Surly's thing do? It has the ability to target.
Surly is a hexproof, and then when a permanent you don't control becomes the target of a spell ability that you control, you get a token that's a copy of it.
No, I don't think so. I think Answer Midnight's Call also turns off Surly, right? Does Answer Midnight's Call target? It doesn't, right?
Well, it's not in the deck. Oh, no, it is.
Yeah.
No. Guess not.
I don't
need that either.
Yes, I don't think Surly was ever going to be first mateable pre-board.
Surly's just standing there menacingly.
Yeah.
There's also a Violent Collapse and a Hungering Cult on the board that don't target, so I assume it's just a real side plan.
They really hate aggro, seems like.
Who doesn't?
By the way, Asti, I think you need to reconnect because your audio quality is suffering. And now I can't hear you.
No, it might just be giving out on me. It does this a lot.
Okay, well, you're sounding really robot-y right now, but I guess we'll just continue and hopefully it gets better. Hopefully you don't turn into the Terminator or something. Wait, no, that's not a good joke.
You're roboting a lot on my end, so I'm gonna say this is actually I mean, it's definitely my fault, but I'm gonna say it's your fault anyways.
I think it might also, yeah, it actually could just be my fault because, you know, I'm also trying to stream while doing this, and apparently my thing is red. Yeah, my Wi-Fi bars are red right now. That's not a good sign.
Yeah. Mine's somewhere in the 400 millisecond range, which is not good.
Yeah. Well, the good
Well,
news is that
regardless of connection issue.
yeah, regardless of connection issues, because you know nobody's actually watching this right now. I'm looking at the stats right now, and there's 0 viewers right now.
That's a shame.
We're just like talking into
So,
the void.
Rob,
Yeah, let's move on.
yeah, the problem with these, we do them. They happen like at midnight because, like, even if we start right away, it's fairly late.
Yeah. Anyways, let's just like say some stuff about Nyx's deck so that they're not too left out. So Vadu, the Deep Drinker, I don't think I've seen anyone else play this card before. Graz, the Night Shaper, I don't think I've seen anyone else play this card before. Oh, they discard themselves to reanimate.
Yeah, so that whole cycle is pretty nice. And, you know, since the tokens aren't legendary, you can even just stack them.
Yeah, cool.
Plus, having that horrors helps offset the downside of, I don't know, Forgotten Shang-Chi arts.
Not do anything.
It's in the deck. So the most like you exile a creature card from the graveyard, you create a tap token that's a copy of it. It has one of these creatures damage.
It actually has anti-synergy with the horrors because they key off being tokens.
Well, no, because you discard it, you make the token, and then you bring back the big one, and when you attack with the token, you get the trigger from both of them.
No,
because you attack with one or more horrors.
If it isn't a token, like you don't get the bonus from it not being a token.
Well, you still get like the regular effect. Usually that effect's not bad.
Yeah, you're right. All right, so I guess we just rate it like 5 for Chili Peppers. I'll get 5. Like it is unique. I'm not super high on the deck, but maybe it does stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 4. I'm gonna give it 4 graveyards out of 5. I think just because, like, the reanimator targets have been done. It's a reanimator deck. It's running Temporal Station. It's running Cranial Violation. It's running Tyrant of Tribute. It's running Azos. It's on like card that puts them into play from your hand. It's not a lot of like the stuff around it's kind of different, but the shell's kind of the same.
Yeah. All right, so moving on. TriQ is playing Weaver Sack.
100.
Yay! I guess is this literally the same deck as Gao?
No, I think it's slightly different.
Oh, they're playing more sorceries in the main board.
It's hard to tell when it comes down to like.
Why are they playing so many random one-up sorceries? Do they have like a sorcery tutor in there somewhere?
It's something that I know Post Cannon Girl's doing it too, so I don't know what it is. But that is some way, I think.
Is Post Cannon Girl? No, Post Cannon. Yeah, Gao isn't playing a bunch of random one-up sorceries in their deck.
They are.
But they're not playing. They're not playing Ignition Ritual or Conquer Psyche.
There's like 5 random one.
Or Tally's
like
Council.
Instant sorceries.
What's Tally's Council for, anyways? It's like one of Tally's Council. How are they going to get it?
Card's awesome.
Yeah, but like, why one of? I don't see how.
Let me see if it's something in the board. Maybe. There's chaos as your redemption in the board.
But that only goes up to 3.
That's true. I don't know.
I mean,
it's just awesome. I guess I don't know.
I guess like playing main board Ignition Ritual and Conquer Psyche does make your chaos better. Like your sideboard chaos is better because you can Fire Weaver out of chaos and then still have these things accessible in your main deck to chaos into.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Ignition Ritual played. Oh, we got Pipsqueak. Hello.
Oh, Pipsqueak. Hello there. You've joined just in time to see us talk about the Fire Weaver deck, or the Fire Weaver Sack deck. which I'm getting 5 chili peppers too. Pip, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just currently opening up all of the things.
I see. We appreciate having an experienced player on board like you, because then we can actually give them numerical ratings to the decks instead of just going off vibes.
Oh, did not mean to do that.
Jesus. Okay, yeah, this deck runs a lot of cards.
Yeah.
Some of them have even been designed. One. Can it tutor for solar? Oh yeah, it can ancestral council for solar flare. How often is that correct?
That's true.
I mean,
if we have ancestral council.
I mean,
main
that's
deck. We're on main deck Conquer Psyche. One of main deck Reckless Impulse. What?
So
some of these cards feel like they're meant to. I don't understand a lot of the decisions here.
So Chaos is
fine.
your redemption. So Ignition Ritual and Conquer Psyche is for Chaos is your redemption, because if you have these guys in your main board, then you can fire Weaver out as Chaos and then immediately try to grab these things instead of having all of them in your sideboard and then not being able to Chaos them.
Wait, that doesn't make any sense.
Actually, yeah, good point, right? Because
you can why get Chaos as your redemption to search for Ignition Ritual when you could just run Ignition Ritual on the board and cast Ignition Ritual?
Good point. Maybe because you're flashing back, Chaos is your redemption. So then, like
With what?
I mean, you have plenty of ways of flashing it back with Kyoro and Fire Truth Seeker and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this deck 3 checks, and that's mostly just because I don't want to be incorrect, and it turns out that it's good. But like looking at it, I don't understand what would make it good, because I think the layering that it is doing is like muddling the deck pretty heavily rather than just like strengthening the deck's plan. Looking at, oh my god, I did not realize that Reanimator gets to run Cyril of the Tempest. That's very funny.
It doesn't actually.
This one doesn't, because it's running Weep from Chaff and Answer Midnight's Call. But
then there should not be a Cyril in the sideboard.
No, there shouldn't.
Good to know.
Okay, I think the plan for so Nyx's plan is that in post-board games, they board out Answer Midnight's Call and Weed from Chaff to bring in their target spells, and then that activates Cyril in game 2 if it's relevant.
Why would it be relevant in game 2 if you're okay, yeah, post-can girls on the same list. And Requiem is on the kind of blue-white tempo list. Okay. I definitely feel like that deck had room to like be iterated on a little bit. I know it got top 8 last GP, so it feels a little wrong to give it 2 checks, but like I genuinely think there's a more fucked up shell here that is running very different cards. So
the check marks are for spiciness rating. We actually have a ranking column for actual rankings.
I see. Yeah, I shouldn't be in charge of that. Okay.
You can still give your own spiciness rankings too if you want.
I'm gonna go with 6 for Fireweaver Bod.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And let's do 5 for Blue-White Tempo and Blue-Black.
Really? You don't trust Blue-White Tempo? It did pretty well last time.
I guess that's fair. I'm just like looking at it and just like I think there's a lot of incoherent deck choices is how I would put it. Like I think there is no world in which you should be a 1 Veilbore Meddler deck.
Actually, yeah. Good point, yeah.
I think Glimmer is kind of trolling this list. Like it's fine, but it's still kind of troll. I don't know. I don't think the deck has a lot of really weird card choices in it, and I think some of it is just like it was built by someone relatively inexperienced from the format. And I think there is a powerful thing going on here, and the deck, if it draws like the good cards in the deck rather than the bad cards, it will just be able to slaughter people. But if it doesn't draw the good cards, if it instead draws the bad cards, I don't know how you win.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I agree. Like it's really easy to run half with this deck if you just draw all your answers and no threats.
Yeah, especially because you're not running all the answer threats that you can. And then I think Nyx's deck, like I think I'm being a little low on it because of the Cyril thing, but like I do feel like Blue-Black Reanimator feels worse without access to the two mana accelerant that like lets it turn 3 cheat something out with backup or whatever. But I think Nyx's deck is fine.
Are you talking about the
I think-
Lotus? Like,
Yeah, Lotus, but also you could play fucking rail lines if you wanted. Like, I think more people should be doing that. Anyway, we can continue on.
Okay,
I'm possibly like lowballing a bunch of these decks. Oh shit, Marin Polgek, let's fucking go.
so Polgek mid range. Yeah, that's a lot of
Yeah.
enchantments.
It
It's
is
kind of
stunning to me that Neon Blue did not manage to fit one like lockout that you can do with Marin Polgek.
Oh wait, what is it like?
I don't remember. I just know that at one point I was like idly brewing a Marin Polgek EDH deck, and I looked at it and I was like, I don't think anyone would let me play this deck, and so I just scrapped it. But you can. One of them is pre-nerf Mercacort, so that no longer works. Oh well. But I don't know. This deck looks sick. I want this deck to be good. I have no idea if it is. But I could see it being quite good. Like, it has access to heraldry. Copying heraldry a couple of times makes it really fucking hard for someone to kill you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
actually, you can just copy Beyond the Veil a bunch of times, and that also screws your opponent.
That also is really hard to beat. And it's still... Oh, yeah.
I think this is just a deck with, like, a bunch of good cards in it. Like, it's just, here's all of the really good enchantments that we have, and then, like, an order module and a logic module. Because
Yeah.
they're good top-end rounding out pieces, I suppose.
Like, I never see these guys played.
Oh, no. Scribble had a lot of success with order module in one of
I say order module looks like it could be a legit piece.
Okay, what about logic module?
Is like weirdly good in terms of the tap down all creatures target player controls. Just like repeatedly sleeping your opponent, or like this proccing once and copying an Innistu's masterpiece seems like a nightmare.
Huh.
On that note,
Yeah.
this seems like a kind of medium Innistu's masterpiece deck. Like, you're not spitting out a bunch of redundant tokens. So I think Innistu's masterpiece is like pretty often going to be like, you know, a 3-mana 4/4, which it's ridiculous to say a 4/4 with flying and ward is not very good. But like, I think compared to the highs that Innistu's masterpiece often hits, this deck is not hitting those highs.
And also, like, I don't think this deck's win condition is beating down with a giant masterpiece, right? Like, you'd rather just lock out your opponent with Polgek.
I think sometimes I also feel that way about Embodied Soul. Like, this deck doesn't run a bunch of cheap spells, but I think this deck is doing something genuinely powerful. I feel a little bit bad giving it a higher rating than the blue-white tempo deck, but like, yeah, if you could tell me I get to pick one of these two decks to play in this GP, I think I'd be more excited to play Neon Blue's deck.
Okay, yeah, I think I'll give it 5 Chili Peppers because it is doing something very unique. Also, I realized that, like, if you're playing Esper, then you can mirror Polgek with Down with the Ship to try to draw step to lock your opponent, because its copy ability is not sorcery speed. I might try building that deck eventually.
You also, if you're an Esper, you can repeatedly copy Lay-Bear Ambitions to be selectively hand-hating your opponent, and also locking them out of the ability to get back into the game via any draw spell.
Lay-Bear, I don't think that thing... doesn't Lay-Bear not trigger if it's not cast?
Oh, you're right. Scribble was smart enough to add it if it wasn't cast. If it was cast a bit to it. Never mind. Scribble ruining my fun.
What card?
Lay-Bear Ambitions.
Oh yeah.
Okay, anyways.
They're making fair balanced cards.
Alright, what if we repeatedly copy a Bind the Mind?
That actually is pretty funny too.
Or Into the Lion's Den. There we go.
What's Into the Lion's Den do again? Into the Lion's Den.
I mean, they're just like, what? I mean, yeah, if you're copying it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So copying Bind the Mind reminds me of in Rev, where you're copying that mono white thing with the Esper, or with the 3-drop creature. I forgot what they were called.
Yeah. I mean, they're in my set, so it's funny that I'm not remembering it. One of them is It's the one with the Caillou promo. Anyway, this is beside the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, this deck's gonna get 5 wizards out of 5 from me.
All right. So moving on. Engineer. Okay, Engineer, since you're in chat right now, please explain yourself.
Okay, so this deck, I wanted to submit a fun deck, but I also didn't want to submit a deck that lost to Beyond the Veil. So I just ended up deciding, screw it, I'll submit a deck that loses to Beyond the Veil. And round 1, I get matched up against Neon, who is on Beyond the Veil, and a way to repeatedly hit it. So that's not going to be nice.
Why is
No, I will. Realistically, I think you have. I think saying I'm just gonna submit a deck that loses to Beyond the Veil when it's like probably one of the best things to be doing in the format might have been the first
I just
mistake.
decided that I'm going to have fun this VP. I'm not going to try and be competitive. Like, I just don't care. I was originally going to submit Mono Red Storm. Then I decided to submit this instead because I think this deck is much better than Mono Red Storm.
And how does this lose to Beyond the Veil? Because I'm not seeing it. Like, I think it has enough redundancy to not lose to Beyond the Veil.
Okay, so the problem is you need to keep a creature on the board. And you also have important Concord permanents that you want to survive. So if a deck like Fickle, if they're just blinking every turn, you need exactly Idyllic Odyssey to beat Beyond the Veil, pretty much.
I mean, I think most decks lose to if Fickle Shaper can blink Beyond the Veil every turn.
I'm a little bit surprised that since you're running Waltz on a Nimbus, you're not running like a thing that Waltz on a Nimbus can find to like destroy a Beyond the Veil.
Probably should be.
Like your own Beyond the Veil.
One, but
I probably should be on my own Beyond the Veil as well. I mean, it does work with Steward. But let me actually explain the deck now. So basically, the main piece of the deck is Steward of Empire's Cradle. This card is insane. So first thing it does is let you tutor for a Discovery, Quest, or Saga. So that's Dance of Frost, Waltz on a Nimbus, or Seek the Maker's Egg. And all of these work really well with Steward because the other ability is if you have Civilize, your enchantments double trigger any ability. So if you have Dance of Frost, you get to tap down 2 non-land permanents, gain 4 life, and whenever you cast something, draw a card. And then on the 3rd chapter, you can pretty easily push for lethal, especially if you have something like Chronicles on Ascent, so they flying or arrive, making a warrior roll to give Trample. Your Waltz can exile 2 things and then make 2 giant soldiers and then tutor twice if your steward sticks around, and that's just amazing. But even just exiling 2 things is already insane, and then you still get the other parts of the card. And then Seek the Maker's Egg, just straight up when it just gains 12 life and then gets 2 things back. If you can steward and then play any artifact or enchantment, which is pretty much your whole deck. So yeah, Steward is insane. And it also double triggers everything else, like your Concord enchantments, which are the other main piece of the deck. Idyllic Odyssey is a Bitter Blossom that also gains life, and the tokens have Slipstream, and Sights Beyond, which is kind of like a Phyrexian Arena. So you have all that, and then, so now you just have to get your Concord on, and your creatures are Mina, Steward, and Petal of the Heart. But obviously you have other ways to get creatures like Chronicles, Arrive, and actually not much else. You have Waltz on Nimbus, I guess. But yeah, those are your main plans for getting out creatures. And then once you have Concord, the deck can grind insanely well.
Yeah. It draws like a million cards.
I can confirm that Steward is, in fact, pretty insane. It was, I remember, like, before Brothers Reunion got nerfed, I was running like green-white 2-drops with that, where you just, get Steward, go get my Brothers Reunion, play Brothers Reunion, drop 2 more 2-drops that do whatever.
Steward is silly.
I think my main concern with this deck is it feels like you have a plan that is very minimally interactive in terms of how much you interact with your opponent. And your deck really does not like being interacted with.
If they have specifically good creature removal, you have a much more obnoxious time. It's still not like the worst. Like you can still outgrind people with like, Idyllic Odyssey, Sights Beyond, Chronicles stuff, but like you definitely want to have a steward in play for an extended period of time. But it also doesn't seem like you kill people particularly quickly. Like you're trying to just go really over the top in mid-range matchups or like against creature-based aggro. I think you probably just clown on them. But
yeah, the thing about this deck is if you get Idyllic Odyssey online, and if it sticks for 1 or 2 turns, you'll usually have enough creatures to keep it like going off and kind of just chain and get all that value, be able to keep Concord and Civilized. So you really, really need Idyllic Odyssey if your opponent has a lot of creature removal. I agree. You need more. I probably should be running a lot more interaction. Because literally my only interaction is Waltz in the main deck, a Nature's Claim in the sideboard, and I guess technically Bind the Mind, and that's literally it.
Yeah, and like you're playing enchantment, so you have lots of really good options that you're not using for interaction.
Yeah. The problem is I kind of built this deck and then shelved it for the last 2 GPs because some of the people I was brewing with, like they built, you saw Squirrel Calling and What Remains of Zero, which I both went 0-2 with. But those decks looked really good when we were building them. So I was running those, so I kind of shelved this for a couple of months. So then when I decided, I want to play this month, I kind of just threw in Waltz on an Nimbus and then called it a day pretty much and didn't update much else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pip?
The deck had literally 0 interaction, which maybe not the best.
So Bat Concord. I'll give this deck 5 chili peppers because it is very cool.
Yeah, I'll give it 5 fish out of 5.
I think this is in like the 5 ranking bracket for me. Like I think it would be relatively hard to convince me to be excited to take this deck to a GP, but I think it is doing something genuinely powerful. And if you get to do the thing and your opponent doesn't kill you or kill your creature, you probably do really stupid things at them.
Definitely.
I think that is undoubtedly true.
If Steward stick, it's like almost impossible to lose, I'd say. It's just so much. The problem is it never sticks.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for coming, Engineer, and we'll be moving on. But you can stick around if you want. Anyways, yeah, let's go to Toast's deck.
So Toast
it's Soul Reader.
On the Mardu Fickle Weaver deck. We're still doing the same thing. We left the Unbound Expanse combo legal, and Toasty is still Unbound Expansing people.
We're also still calling it Fickle Shaper.
Beyond the Veil, everyone's favorite.
Oh, you're right. There's no Will of a Fickle Lord.
Yeah, I know. We're still calling it
Fickle for Soul Reader, I think.
No, we're still.
I guess Rippling Curtain is doing the. You don't need it. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're still going to call the deck Fickle Shaper, just like how we keep calling Affinity, even though it doesn't play Affinity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I call it Soul Reader.
I mean, I give Toast deck like an 8. I think this deck is still.
Yeah, this deck is really good.
If I was in this GP, I probably would be trying to play something similar. I think it has a really solid matchup spread.
For spiciness, it will get 1 Unbound Expanse out of 5 because it is, in fact, just the deck that won the last GP. It's kind of just an updated version of an older deck that was fairly popular.
We added Soul Reader and Beyond the Veil, and other than that, it's pretty much the same as old Fickle builds, I think.
Yeah, I'll give it like 5 for chili peppers because I still really like the deck, though.
I think Chaos Module is one of the biggest cards that actually makes this deck so good.
Chaos Module is huge.
Chaos Module is crazy.
I really need to brew with this card more. Like, I just don't really play black-red enchantments that often, so...
Yeah, so...
it's pretty specific.
So actually, Pipsqueak, how much do you think the Soul Reader nerf has hit this deck?
I hope a non-zero amount. Okay, basically how much the Soul Reader nerf hit it is hugely contingent on how many people are playing 1 mana and 2 mana removal spells. Because the Soul Reader nerf was basically 2 mana removal spells in particular was basically if you play Soul Reader turn 1, it is only turn 3 when you get your first you play it turn basically if you play it turn 1 instead of getting a proc turn 2 you get a proc turn 3 and your opponent can kill it, which is a big deal. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I think it probably hit the deck a decent bit, but I'm kind of just staring at it being I think it's going to depend on the rest of the decks this GP. If there's a bunch of decks where their plan for interacting is Pith Wilts, I think the nerf is meaningful. And if there's a bunch of decks that are either not interacting or their plan for interacting was 1 mana spells, it means nothing.
Okay. Yeah, good analysis.
Basically praying that I don't get matched against this because this is literally my worst nightmare. Which, maybe I should have played a best deck, but like I said, I really just didn't care about trying to win this GP.
Engineer, you say this is your worst nightmare, but rot exists, right?
Yeah, I could be playing interaction. That would be a good deck building decision.
No, I mean rot against your deck.
Yeah, rot does put your entire deck in the ground.
Yeah,
but play rot?
Is anyone running rot?
People used to.
Oh, Scribble is running rot, but that's it. So, wait, is anyone running Singularity's Grasp? No one's running one person's running rot, and no one's running Sing Grasp. So I'm more afraid of Fickle since there's 2 of them.
Epid is on Casino Scam.
Epid thank you, Caillou.
This is the build that Caillou is playing fairly recently. I think this is actually a pretty sick build. There is one problem that I still have with this deck, which is I think it is fucking egregious and unexcusable to run 2 copies of All or Nothing and 2 copies of Buy Time in your deck. That is a Buy Time All or Nothing combo deck. And the justification is you're running 4 Relentings, which can buy either half of the combo. I still think you should be on 3 of each of the combo pieces and just skimp on the removal a little bit. But
yeah, I agree.
The deck is doing something fairly powerful. I also think that there's other things you might want to clean up a little bit, but the deck gets to be both a good villainy deck and also a combo deck that kills with Sacred Songs. You still can Xanagan some people into the dirt. I think the deck is overall in a it is a solid deck, and I would be pretty happy to play it. It is a little bit awkward how heavily this deck is tech. I mean, this deck is heavily tech to kill creatures, but also it doesn't have creatures, so anyone who is also tech to beat creatures does nothing versus it. And it has a combo kill that kind of goes over the top of a lot of other things. So I'm pretty high on this list. I think this is a 7 for me. I think I would rather be on this deck than the Paul Geck deck, but I would rather be on Fickle Shaper than this deck.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'll give it 3 Chili Peppers because it's Casino Scam again, and it's the boring version of Casino Scam.
What's the exciting version?
The exciting version is the one that swings with Shadow?
The exciting version is the one that plays Black Hole Musings.
Yeah, the one with Wish to See instead of thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna give this 3 casinos out of 5. Yeah, it's casino.
How are you finding these emojis?
The website called Emojipedia. You can look them all up.
All right, so Petra is playing Rug Ramp with the Seeker Elizabeth as a kind of fun of, but ultimately this deck is still trying to do stupid Leyran Alpha Tyrant Tributes Roba things.
Okay, so the most notable change right now is they replaced their Nitrous Renewers with Exploring the Mirror Worlds, which I very much disagreed with, but I'm not sure how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, I personally also disagree with it, just because Nitrous Renewer is it's such a good card, and I think 25 lands is enough that you can play Nitrous Renewer as well.
Yeah, I mean, I ran the math and like I kind of buy what she was experiencing. Nitrous Renewer makes you mulligan meaningfully worse. You need to have 3 land hands plus Nitrous Renewer for Nitrous Renewer to do, anything. And I think that ramp being good on like somewhat like small mulligans because of Recall Forgotten Aeons and Ornery Bloom is like a big upside. So I kind of buy the logic of we should do Exploring the Mirror Worlds. I'm a lot more skeptical on the main deck Sacrificial Bulls. Like what?
Oh,
Why?
main decking Sack Bull?
I mean, I always
Without
main deck
any
2 sack bows in my ramp decks.
But you ran tutors historically, right?
No, I think I was running sack bows even pre-tutor. Like in Rejuvenationless Rejuvenation, I was running 2 mainboard sack bows.
Wow. Okay.
Because like it's just a decent card to sink a lot of mana into.
I guess.
If you're a believer, I'm willing to defer to that knowledge. But yeah.
I mean, sack bows sack bow becomes a lot better if you have the Green Sun Zenith, but like even without it, I mean, you do need to run some number of small creatures that are really good to sink mana into, and sack bow does that job pretty well.
I believe that this is an above average choice in that regard. I feel like this deck is doing something that's like a little. I mean, this deck is obviously doing something a little too cute. Secret Lizaveth isn't in here because she's good. She's in here because it's a pet card. But I also just like I think that this deck is just kind of not keeping up with the times, I guess. And
yeah,
there's just like a lot of little design things
Also,
where
all different basics.
that's just a Gravis thing.
There's a lot of good basics in this format. I also like. Yeah, I think this deck. I could believe it winning some games. I could believe it winning matches even, because when it is doing the thing is very powerful. But I think it has a lot higher percentage of not doing the thing games than I would like, and that would scare me off the deck.
Yeah, same.
Something for Ornery Bloom, something I'm actually higher on than it that I was looking at before is Reborn from the Ashes. I personally think it's better if you're also in red, depending on how much you want. Like, you're not getting the cards forever. You're impulse drawing them, but you also get maybe a land from your graveyard, so you're 100% on that if you're running enough fetches. And then you also get the top of your library, I guess, and you also have additional utility of getting stuff back. But I don't know. I haven't actually tested the card.
I've played Reborn from the Ashes before, but I'm not super high on it because it's too easy to whiff with it.
I think I would rather have Tend to the Grove.
Yeah, I mean,
Tend to the Grove is really good.
I also, I don't know. I feel like for some of these decks,
Grove would actually be guaranteed to hit ramp if you didn't have Sack Bull. If you actually ramp or Ramsey.
Ramsey is ramp.
Yeah, Ramsey is ramp. Sure. So I think the fact that 10th Grove then is like this kind of double ramping growth is pretty fucked.
Yeah.
I think.
No, it can also hit Liz, which is, womp womp.
I mean, it's fine.
Liz is 2, not 3.
I also assume the reason we're running all of these Explore effects is for maximum efficiency with Liz, but I don't know. I think that this deck is like running. I think that I am not willing to believe that this top end is the correct or is the best top end, and I feel like we're really relying on Recall Forgottenness to like smooth our deck and make it good. And you only get to play 4 of those.
What the hell is this sideboard? Why are they running Greenwood Outriders in the board? They should be running Greenwood Outriders main.
I believe the discussion with Sai was being able to swap out a bunch of the threats for matchups where those threats were better, because a lot of the interaction that Petra was playing previously, just like there is no actual use case for a lot of the Forbidden Secrets, because most of the decks where Forbidden Secrets is good against, if you're sitting around holding up 2 mana versus them, you are probably falling behind. But I'm not sure about this selection of solutions there.
Yeah. Casimir?
Okay, to be fair,
Why?
if you do stick an answer,
What is
I don't know how you
Wormscape?
lose.
Well, same applies if you take a tyrant.
Definitely Cyber's fault.
Have you ever
that's
heard
a good
of
point. Why don't
Tyrant
you
of
do more Tyrant tributes? Yeah. Okay. Well,
Or
you know,
True.
or Bessie the Muscle.
Or-
Like, I'm not sure.
you,
I'm excited to see Iviana in a sideboard, but I don't think Bessie needs to be here.
Actually, no. There is.
Iviana actually seems cool.
Okay, so
But I'm not sure about anything else.
so there is an
I guess
there is an upside to this board in that I think Drevos will be less encouraged to overboard when half the cards in their board are super redundant.
I understand what you're saying. I strongly disagree, and I think you should probably avoid spectating because I think spectating might give you some. We should probably move on to the next
Yeah.
step now.
Anyways, 5 chili
we
peppers
have-
because it's ramp. It's Teamer ramp. It's my baby.
It's gonna.
Okay.
I'm giving this 3 clue tokens out of 5 to activate Secret Elizabeth's ability with.
I expected those to be puzzle pieces, not gonna lie. Magnifying glasses works, I guess.
I'm not a deep enough thinker to come up with the puzzle piece connection.
Okay, so yeah, let's move on. Cyber is playing Megalokraken.
Grixis Megalokraken. Yeah, this deck looks sick. I have no idea if it's good. It is cool that you get to run like 6 counter spells that Megalokraken isn't a whiff on. That definitely feels nice. Oh, plus Maze Collection. That's more counter spells that Megalokraken isn't a whiff on.
Can you Megalokraken your Maze collection?
Yes.
Ah, that sounds really
Which
cool.
effectively just chooses a Unrelenting, I would guess.
Okay.
It has Valerie, it has TFA, it has Prying Inquiry, it has Megalokraken. I love this deck immediately.
You
this
turn one are just playing a Shiftscape every single game is the hope. So you're running 12 copies. Because you don't really have 1-drops. You're hoping to just always start the curve on 2. And you take Valdez and 2 Void Flare Spets Brilliant. This is kind of an interesting Valerie deck. I guess Valerie also ramps into a turn 4 Megalokraken, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I was like kind of like this deck.
NCN in the sideboard, interestingly.
I think I'm kind of willing to go up from this deck is fun to this deck looks actually good.
They're playing Neon Claw Knights in the sideboard.
Yeah, I kind of buy that. I think main deck saying that's not the way I want to go. But like versus combo decks, being able to ram Neon Claw Knights at them is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any matchup where you want to be more
reduces?
Well, the cost reducer doesn't help with Megalokraken, which is the most important thing.
True. But it does make stuff uncounterable for control matchups as well.
Yeah, Neon Claw Knight is just...
Yeah, and any matchup where... Because this deck is fundamentally a mid-range deck, but I think it's mid-range and control, like leaning control pre-board. And so post-board, it wants the ability to kind of pivot down a little bit. But it doesn't do that much. It's just doing that a little.
I'll give 5 chili peppers because that deck's really cool too.
Yeah. I would be down to watch and comment on that deck.
I think I'm gonna give it 4 chili. I'm gonna give it 4 Megalokrakens out of 5.
Is there emoji for Megalokraken?
That's just a squid.
It's just a squid.
Yeah, unfortunately there's no one for a Kraken.
Some crazy like 8K image of like Cthulhu or something as an emoji somehow. I don't know.
I think actually I'm gonna go from 7 to 6 in terms of ranking, just because looking at looking at Epid's deck and looking at the other 6s I put down here, I think this has more in common with a 6 than a 7. Like I think this deck looks fun and it looks relatively powerful. Like, if you told me you need to pick a deck to win the GP, I don't think this deck would be like substantially outside, ahead of the pack.
Okay, so let's move on to Ty Belly's Rakdos Unearth. Attract those on Earth.
Rakdos on Earth.
Yep. It's running Icon Troubleshooter.
That
Huh.
That's
It's
true.
it's not running Distant Thunder, which I think is a mistake. Like, I think if you're
Yeah.
running Ambitious Necromancer, you really want to be on the forward Deformed Sanity for
definitely.
Distant Thunder, just to like
Find
maximize that.
happiness and misery. So something really interesting is Metal Munch is really good with Troubleshooter and Necromancer, but it's in the sideboard. I feel like you can possibly main deck 1 or 2 because it's good with Sabotage and also can just be really good in some matchups.
Or you could just play better cards and then leave Metal Munch from the sideboard.
That also works.
Yeah,
I'm not a believer in Metal Munch main deck.
I am a believer in Find Happiness and Misery. I end up running it in my mono black Necromancer deck because it's
Happiness,
it's
I really
versatile.
liked.
Or draw spell that
Familiar
targets
Subtle?
is the right kind of versatile. Because you can also target the other opponent. Like, oh, my Icon Troubleshooter is in grave. I'm going to target my opponent with the mill and get it back. Or, oh, my grave is empty. I'm going to target myself, fill up my grave a bit, draw cards, and then...
Wind is also interesting. I'm not sure about it, but it seems okay.
I see the vision. I think this deck needs more burn spells because what this deck can do is, because I was like, this deck is really low on like what I consider to be good unearth hits. Like we have only 1 initiative, but the fact that we're on 4 Grin and 4 Icon, I think means look to that as the main plan. And to be fair, if you have Icon and you swing with a Grin and then you cast a Scorch, your opponent takes 10 damage.
Spicy.
Because 3 from the first Scorch plus the 2 from the Troubleshooter, then 3 from the second Scorch and 2 from the next Troubleshooter. So that actually can fuck people up pretty badly. That is kind of exciting. We're only on 5 unearth effects in the sorceries. I don't know. I think that this deck, like, actually there's a really powerful idea here. But like some of the details I don't fully agree with.
Yeah, I feel like it probably should have a ratio closer to the black-red unearth decks that ran pre-nerf, right? Like those ratios were pretty good. And they were running like
low on ill-fated fear. Like I think there's interesting things going on here, but I think the deck is more interesting than powerful. But I would guess that this can just randomly kill people sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give Fortunate Purpose because like it definitely needs more time in the oven compared to the black-red unearth deck that I've played before. But it has
I think it's
ideas.
Tanking. Like I think it's probably in a fine position. I would be willing to believe that it could like have a good run this GP, but I think it is on average doing something less powerful than a lot of the other decks that we've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think I'll give this 3 unearthed targets out of 5. Like, I think it's just it's unearthed. It's not something new necessarily.
It is actually. It's playing a bunch of cards that unearthed didn't used to play before. Whether that's a good thing or not is up to you to decide.
I don't think it's spicy. I think if it was more of a plan, you have the Distant Thunders, and you're more focused on the, swing with Grin, do like 10 damage to you, boom, and maybe end up going off of like
That's
the pay up.
More Distant Thunders would be huge. I forgot about how that would impact with burn spells as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Go off of me. I don't know how many hand attacks you want, but maybe end up going off of a couple things. It's also that yeah.
Okay,
that's it.
Let's move on before we ramble more. Hersey is Purple Fog, so I'm going to give it one Chili Pepper right now before we talk or before we say anything.
Yeah. Purple Fog is awesome.
The deck has almost no cards different from when Hersey last played it. The exception is the Icon has been replaced with a Sacred Songs. I kind of think that the deck should be on more than one Sacred Songs, technically, just because I think Sacred Songs is like a really good fair card, or not a really good fair card. It's a pretty good fair card in addition to being like the best win condition this deck could ask for. But like, Yeah, I think this deck actually has a lot of powerful things going for it. It doesn't run creatures, so you can't really like make it stay miserable by being an anti-creature deck. A couple of its like fogs are weirdly good against like non-combat damage. So like, yeah, you can like potentially burn it out, but it does have Speak No Evil to counter some of the like burn ETB like things, and it has Unravelings. I don't know. This deck is something I enjoy watching, but it also is a little bit useful.
How do you enjoy watching it?
Turbo Fog is awesome. I love Turbo Fog. It's probably one of my favorite archetypes ever. Hi, Troop.
Here's the thing about Turbo Fog and Hersey playing Turbo Fog in general. If Hersey's opponents understood Hersey's deck and understood when they were fucking dead, Hersey's deck would be completely fine to watch. The issue that happens is that Hersey has to spend like a solid 10 minutes when they're, when they have like 7 cards in hand that their opponent knows at least 4 of them are fogs, and they're like, maybe I can get through with creatures. And it's like, no, you can't. Please stop wasting our time and concede this game.
I don't think you should hate on people for playing a game out ever.
I
Honestly,
I think
I don't think there's any reason to like make your opponent kill you. Like, I'm sorry that the commentary experience is worse. I'm sorry that it's a worse experience to watch, but you have to play to like.
It's also a worse experience to play.
People go out. A lot of people, in my experience, will go out and talk about, "Oh, this deck is terrible to play against. It lasts forever." When like some of those people or some of the other people, like they're dead. They should have and could have conceded at some point. And yeah, that's the problem, not the wanting to play it out, in my opinion.
You are, in a literal sense, you are allowed to play the game out. There's nothing stopping you. But like, I think a lot of the time, the reason why people play those games out isn't because, or is because they're like, I think I have a chance. And it's like, you don't. And I think if you understood your opponent's deck better, you would realize, oh, I am functionally deterministically dead. I have seen Hersey continue playing against opponents who we've looked through their deck and they're like, oh, they're out of win conditions. It is literally impossible for them to win at this point, and we're still playing this game. And I think it is completely fair to say, as a player, it is my right to play that game out, but I will in fact tell them that they are wasting their own time, and they have a finite amount of time on this earth, and they should be spending it doing things other than losing to Hersey on Turbo Fog. There are so many better things to be doing with your life than that.
I agree.
And yet we all spend hours designing custom Magic cards.
I don't design any cards.
Me neither.
Play with them.
All right.
Okay. Anyway,
You at least make like promos every once in a while.
that's not designing cards. That's choosing art. That's completely different.
So Crush is on.
Pip, did you give a rating to the Turbo Fog?
Oh, I think this is like a 6. Like, I think this deck has what it takes to win things, but like, I think the deck also has some uphill battles. I think there are decks or archetypes that just make its life hell.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's move on. Yeah.
3 fogs out of 5.
Crush's deck. I have never actually seen this deck go off. Does this deck go off?
I think
is that a thing that actually happens?
I think it's supposed to.
Okay, but have you ever seen it? Can
No,
you
because I
confirm
have
that has
not.
happened?
Because I'm not watching their games. I want to get them on camera, but I haven't.
I feel like I remember seeing it in a replay that Crush sent at some point go off. I'm not sure.
Okay, the deck looks like it has too many moving parts for me to have any faith in. It's getting 4. I think there's an argument it should be lower.
I think this deck actually works somewhat. It probably needs less. It needs better cards.
I really like LaRoe's Study just as a card. Is it good? No idea. Is it cool? Definitely.
It definitely feels
I
like
don't
it
think
could do something kind of fucked up, but I just I don't know if it would, you know?
I don't. This group of cards doesn't. This group of cards doesn't excite me at all. Really,
I
just
will
kind of feels
say-
like slapping together a handful of decent cards.
Okay, Neon, what was it?
Not even decent, like a bunch of just kind of bad cards.
Neon, go
I
ahead.
will say, every time I've played a like R5 type deck, I don't think this is exactly what this is, but every time I play against kind of like the cramming student type deck, I've only 2-0'd them. So I don't know if that contributes to anything, but these decks always look fun and interesting on paper, but then I have literally never struggled against these decks. It's sort of just like you're twiddling a ton with extra libraries and conjuring cards, but contributing to the board state, none. And then I hit you in the face for 17.
I know for a
because
fact
you have not interacted
I've
with my
seen-
board in a meaningful way.
this deck win at least one game. I'm not sure how it won, but I've seen it win one game. Not sure about anything more, but it's won a game, and I don't know. I guess that's good enough for Crush.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. A little blank is on
Did
green
you-
white counters.
Did you just give? Oh, you already gave that thing a rating. I'll give it like 4 chili peppers because it's funny. I guess. Yeah.
I give it a 4 rating.
Yeah,
But
okay.
yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this 2 fatigue out of 5.
Oof.
So little blank is on green white counters. And it's kind of an interesting build. It's not running any of the counters synergy things, which I think is a little bit weird. And we have a lot of like Savannah Lion type stuff where it's, we have these 1 mana 2/1s with upside that we're hoping to curve like into multiples. We have Consuming Symbiosis, which is not a card I've seen since it was a Berserk. And main deck out of body experience. This deck doesn't look very good. Like, I would totally believe that sometimes a little blank gets to do like 1 drop into 2 more, 1 drops into a 2 drop and a 1 drop, and like aggro an opponent down who's not playing the game. But like, I don't think this deck can kill before turn 4. I'm not certain it can kill on turn 4. And it has no ability to go over the top. It has no ability to catch back up if you like board wipe it once. Like, this deck seems like there's some pretty huge structural issues.
My comment upon seeing the decklist is, why is this deck playing some draft chaff?
Trace the Oasis? Yeah.
Eager Hatchling, Rakiri Initiate, Phalanx Beetle, like they all feel like draft chaff.
I feel like draft draft.
Seems like honestly not that bad to me, but it's definitely a bit sketchy.
Like, I feel like this deck is better if it's just like I feel like your goal should be making creatures that are just really thick. Like, you're running like Guardian of the Divergent or something along those lines and trying to grow something into having each of counters on it and then beat your opponent up with it, which is what the Consuming Symbiosis feels like it's trying to do.
Is this deck?
It's like,
Is this deck not playing Avatar of Natural?
Yeah, that's one of the cards I was going to flag. It's not playing Avatar or Katie.
I mean, I do see a world in which this deck just like beats up on like faster aggro decks because you just get a bunch of bodies that potentially get bigger. And I mean, I think this beats like 8 whack, and maybe that's it. And even then, I would.
Yeah.
You have to attack for these things
Like,
to
even
get
then, it's
counters.
doubtful.
Yeah, I think 8 whack still like some percentage time clowns on this deck because 2/1s look really stupid versus 1/1s versus like hasted 2/1s.
Yeah.
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 All right. So I'm giving this thing 3 chili peppers for feeling undercooked.
It's certainly unique.
I
A little
am
blank.
revised.
A little
I'm
bit.
revising
I have faith in you that you
Castle's
can do that in your next GP. You brought young Chasqui. You need to bring something of that level.
Oh yeah, right. They were the one who did that.
my first GP, my first match was versus a Little Blank on Young Chastity, and I only won because a Little Blank misplayed.
In chat.
I think I'll give the deck 1 egg out of 5.
Egg for what?
Eager hatchling.
Oh.
There's no other like weird type connection, and I don't think there's any emoji for a +1/+1 counter.
You could just do like a plus.
Okay, the next deck has stunlocked me.
Oh, servers,
Um,
critic control.
We're main deck
I
in
know-
zero?
Okay, let me explain this deck. So, I think Style and I were talking about first mates for some MC25 stuff. I don't think either of us ended up submitting anything like with a first mate or anything even close to it. But I ended up just calling Searle, and Nix was like, I could easily break this. And then Nix built a deck with Soul and Ash Feaster, or Searle and Ash Feaster, but Searle was the first mate. And I guess Harvard saw that and decided, let me build it with Searle in the main deck. But Searle plus Ash Feaster it can do a lot. If your opponent has a black source, you have infinite lands. That's why I think Harvard should have been on Mirror Gate. I told them that, but yeah.
That's actually a pretty interesting
This-
combo.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
get to target a ton of stuff, and Searle isn't that bad on its own. I'm definitely skeptical of it in the main deck, though. I think Harvard just wants to run Deathless Siege, and that's why. Oh, Deathless Siege target. So what even is it? Hexstone
Hexstone.
and Ignition Ritual.
Hexstone is like Drop Dreams doesn't target.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't target.
Wait,
Yeah, Ignition Ritual.
Ignition Ritual drop dreams Hexstones. I think
This
the rest
only-
target.
9
What
cards
is
that
Oil the Mind? Am I
Like-
missing what this card is doing? in
It
the
works
deck?
with Deathless Siege.
Yeah,
I see.
in a very technical way. This deck doesn't seem good. Like, you have so few ways of actually fucking killing your opponent once you're ahead, which is like the worst thing you can do as a control deck. Like, if you're a control deck that has just no way of closing games, you will lose games that you could have won because you killed your opponent's like first 5 things, and then you just sat there. This deck doesn't run a Monument of Queens. It has no win cons in the land base. Its only win con is like Tyrell and pirating your opponent's win cons. Valerie,
I will also mention that something with Seal of the Tempest, I was looking at that a while ago, and what's extremely annoying, it's a very heavy, very specific build around that you can't include if you want to have it as a first mate.
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, no, I am absolutely a hater about this deck.
I don't understand why control decks just do not put win conditions in their main board. I won't say all control decks. I will say
technically a win condition.
Yeah,
Oil the Mind and Valerie. I think
Yeah,
that's the main win condition.
I think for Herver, it is genuinely a case of liking to play those games that are like long and stalled out, where you are slowly like murdering your opponent, because Herver is a huge Lantern Control fan. And I think it is coming from the same deck building logic of, well, if I run win conditions, then those cards are bad if I'm not winning. So I should just run cards that are good in all circumstances. Like, okay, but we're running fucking Ash Feaster Ghouls. Like we've already lost. We've already lost the plan.
Ash Feaster Ghouls isn't MDFC.
Sure, you're right. This is basically the same thing as Monument of Queens.
Yeah, because it's a land that attacks.
I personally like the build with Searle as a first mate a lot more.
Mhm.
And I really don't see why really you wouldn't run Searle as a first mate. You're not really getting too much out of it. Like, even Deathless Siege targets, and since I know Herval really loves that card. But, like, what are you really getting out of it?
well, you're a control deck getting access to the best board wipe, maybe. I won't say in the format, kind of feels like it though.
Ritual
I think
is
Ignition
amazing,
Ritual is.
Yeah,
but
Yeah, so
like,
it's
there's been
access
plenty
to
of
Ignition Ritual basically.
But I think there's plenty of control decks that have been in Black Red that like haven't played Ignition Ritual, and I don't think every deck would necessarily even want Ignition Ritual. I'm pretty
When I
skeptical.
joined this format, I made a Grixis control deck that played an 8-mana Planeswalker, and I won with it, and I was happy. You and your
I played the Witch Queens and Ponza, and I need to win with that card. I will eventually.
Okay.
I've never
Did
played
we
control
rate?
in my life.
I'm going to rate this deck 2 chili peppers because it's not going to win the game.
Do you really want to watch this game, this deck win?
Exactly. So that's why it's 2 chili peppers.
I'm also I'm underselling Valerie's ability to act as a win condition. She does create tokens. The awkward thing is if your opponent doesn't play out creatures or cast spells, you have almost no way of generating Valerie.
You have Oil the Mind, right?
Yeah,
You
Oil
have
the Mind is the
Mind
big
and
one.
it's a one-up.
I'm very. The thing I'm like extremely. The main thing don't think makes sense is one of Oil the Mind not anymore in sideboard and no way to protect against Grave Hate at all. I guess you have Hold Steady Engine, but
Yeah,
really not much else.
I'm giving this deck a 4. I think there's a strong argument for it should be a 3, but we'll move on.
Yeah. Okay, so it's same deck. Silas is also on Concord.
Yeah, same deck as me.
No difference.
Exact same list as me.
Yeah, copy paste and move on.
Yeah.
Scribble is playing Abzan midrange, Abzan control.
They're playing 4 rots.
They're
Yeah,
playing 4 rots.
this is the deck that I do not want to get matched up against.
4 rots. It's playing Fearsome Xenoblossom. I think this is because I think Scribble said this card has no bad matchups. I want to play it. I'm not sure I agree, but sick. This card was a plant for Pipsqueak standard. It was not meant for MSEM, but let's fucking go. And I think in general, if your opponent like plays a turn 1 or 2 creature and you tendril snare it, and then you get to untap into like Cecilius or Undo or Fearsome Xenoblossom, I think you're kind of sitting pretty. So
Yeah.
I don't know. This deck is doing something good.
Also,
I think.
Death's Widow plus Cecilius is kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, true. You kill a creature, then recur the Death's Widow.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
I will say,
Call it as well.
I don't know if Fearsome's. I wouldn't say it doesn't have any bad matchups. I think my main thought is like, I guess, affinity.
Combo.
You make like this big body and you can't really like it just wins combat against it. So it's very good. I think that a lot of decks don't have tools to deal with it, especially with board 3, but yeah, I mean it's probably gonna do a big chunk of damage before there's any real answers, but yeah, it's certainly scary. But it doesn't have haste. It's not like a Carnage Tyrant, so that's a good ups. That's like a plus.
It doesn't have trample either. It gets chumped forever.
You can chump this forever. It doesn't have vigilance, so it's not. You either attack or block with it. So
it doesn't have lifelink, so you can't gain life off of it.
Well, yeah. So you kind of have to commit to a path. It is a very good. It is on the field. Like doesn't have any keywords besides ward, so it's all right.
I'm between a 6 and a 7 for this deck. I think this deck is running like enough good cards that like the synergies are like kind of neat and tight. And I think Rot is really good in this meta right now. I think in general Scribble has a really good suite of interaction spells for this meta. So I think I'm gonna go with 7.
I think Rot is always good in the meta. It's just nobody runs it because it's hard to play a deck that runs it.
on paper, we should, in the same way that sometimes the meta cycles in such a way where Pithwilt stops being good, the meta should hypothetically do the same with Rot. But it doesn't. The ways Pithwilt stops being good are like slightly varied, and Rot is good against several of the things that Pithwilt stops being good against. Like Pithwilt is bad against going wide with tokens. Pithwilt is bad versus like these cheap things, but they have ward, or like overloading your opponent on things. And Rot is just like, just if you're not playing 5-drops, I don't have to respect you.
Yeah, Rot is basically like there's theoretically no reason not to run Rot, but also the most fun decks are decks with value 3 or less cards in them.
I mean, I think it's similar to Humility, right? Like Humility or Moat, those are just ludicrously powerful format effects that can sometimes just like win games versus specific opponents. But it turns out finding ways to win with those cards in your deck is like a non-trivial task.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's the Moat. I love
Rot.
Moat.
Yeah. I think Rot in Rhodes was just crazy. And now that you don't really have that kind of easy place to slot it in, I think it's a lot more interesting as a card.
So like, I guess Heart ran Rot, right? Or no, they were running Biohazard instead of Rot, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Absent Control, that's
Asti, what's this deck getting in terms of peppers?
This one's getting 4 Fearless Xenoblossoms out of 5, represented by this random herb.
By the way, Pip,
it's a deck.
Awesome.
That is how many Fearless Xenoblossoms are in the deck as well.
So by the way, Pip, you mentioned how Fearsome Xenoblossom is a plant for Pip's Creek standard, but I'm looking at the card. It still says that it's a plant.
Yeah, the pun was not intended there, and I thought about it immediately after saying it.
Yeah, I should have brought it up earlier instead of waiting until at the end to bring it up. Anyways, yeah, let's actually move on.
It's fickle.
So readers, we can move on.
I mean,
okay, well, the Soul Reader, let's point out that Soul Reader has recently received a buff in its interaction with
With what?
Beyond the Veil?
Beyond the Veil.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, good
that's
point.
the name.
It is a buff in that regard.
how's it buff?
Because you can bounce if you return Beyond the Veil to your hand on your end step, it's not on the board. Your opponent's stuff comes back. If you bounce it to your hand on your upkeep,
Let's not say buff.
Oh, we made the best interaction better, but made everything worse.
I also don't think that like I think that you get to like replay it for value on your next turn. It's like, yeah, I don't think that moves the needle a ton, especially when you could like otherwise still have been getting value off of it, and this delays when you're getting the value. Like your opponent has more room to interact with it. I don't think it's a buff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Also, I think that every time a card receives the nerf, it's funny to claim that it's a buff.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay,
Now
which is
very scorchable, which is important.
because now you don't draw if you're milled out.
Okay, we have already evaluated this deck, so
Well, Splash God's deck isn't running main deck bar hopping, right? And is the other deck running main deck bar hopping?
It is, and this one's running Lay Bare Ambitions, I think, but I don't think there's a meaningful difference here.
Okay, fair.
That's like just a deck size.
yeah, because those are support cards. The core of the deck's the same.
Okay, so I guess
And it still gets 1 Unbound Expanse out of 5.
So I guess
Ricky,
it's time for. So yeah, I also find it funny how my deck is right next to Splash Cats. But yeah, so I was at the start of months I was thinking about just running Esper Kalen back through GP because apparently none of the important cards got hit in any reasonable or any important way. So I was just like trying to tune the deck, and then like 2 days before the submission, the news dropped that Witches of Vacation got nerfed. And I was thinking if I wanted like to bring another deck, but I figured that I didn't have enough time. And I figured that like maybe Esper Kaelin is still reasonable even with the nerfed Witches of Vacation. So I'm just running this deck back now, but worse.
Yeah, I mean the deck looks reasonably strong. I'm kind of just like glancing through it. I think that there's, I think you're still doing something relatively powerful. I think like being able to repeatedly bounce and replay down with the ship is great. I think locking people out with Unbound Expanse is great. I'm excited to see if Witch's Invocation is still like passable. I think the fact that it is like a higher opportunity cost and it's not like the best, it's not an acceptable thing to be like flickering basically, is kind of a hit. But I don't know, I'm looking at this deck and like I can picture you murdering people in very similar ways to how you did so before.
Yeah.
So I think Esper Kaelin is what did it lost two big things, and that was the Beyond the Veil lock with time stand still, and obviously the Witch's Invocation doesn't draw anymore. Those are like pretty big, but they're not like huge. They don't kill the deck. I think the deck is still really good, and I think Ricky does actually have a decent chance of making top 4, if not winning.
Well, so I like the main thing that the Witch's Vacation nerf does is that it makes the deck have way worse low rolls, because previously if you drew a bunch of Witches Invocations, you were like fine with cantripping them, but like now if you draw a bunch of Witches Invocations in a row, you're drawing a bunch of dead cards. And this deck somehow, whenever I played this deck, it always has a habit of low rolling with its draws by drawing a bunch of lands and useless cards in a row. I don't know why this deck keeps drawing lands in a row, even though I'm running pretty low land count.
You're on 21, or no, you're on 23.
Yeah,
that's not. Yeah, that's weird.
I think I'm just getting unlucky when I'm playing the deck. But also, something else I want to mention, another new addition, Cortex Coil. I have a 1-up Cortex Coil because I noticed that it's basically an Explorer's Torch in that it's an equipment that draws a card on ETB, except it also has extra bonuses in that it actually combos quite well with Seto-san.
Yeah, the big Seto-san.
Yes. I don't think I've actually managed to test out the interaction yet because I haven't gotten time yet to actually test it out. But I'm picturing that it's probably decent.
Yeah. I think this deck... Sorry, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Pip.
I think this deck is like 10 out of 10 for me. I think that I would still rather be on the Fickle Shaper decks over it, but I think it looks like it's doing something fairly powerful. It's a time-tested strategy, and I think it has a good balance of interaction and ability to lock your opponent out while also like mostly being able to win a game. So
yeah, like the big breakthrough of this deck again compared to previous Kaelin decks is that it no longer spins in its wheels forever, because now it can try to establish a draw step lock.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, let's move on to Giant Poet, who is playing dragons.
All the red dragons. I think they just asked Egg, and Egg sent this, and this list looks awesome. The main thing I'm skeptical about is you're only running 10 sorceries for Neon Claw Knight.
I think that's still fine.
I mean, you generally don't need a super big spell count for Neon Claw Knight, usually.
You also...
You're only really running 3 for it. I assume in this deck you're using the cost reduction function more often.
Yeah.
You go Myoga, Neon Claw Knight, turn 3, you can play you can just play Princess Stars turn 3 with that.
Neon Claw Knight does not work on creatures, I'm sorry to say.
You reduce you reduce the left on the wayside.
Okay,
yeah.
I will also note the deck actually has 14 sorceries because it has 4 Call of the Dragons as the ominous dragon colors.
Right. Okay. then I'm a lot less
Increase
skeptical.
the damage on Call of the Dragon. Take 1 more damage from its downside.
My actions are beyond count. Ashes, obviously I think the consistency tool is obviously good here. I'm a little bit shocked by the 4th copy of Left on the Wayside in the sideboard, but I guess you just run, you bring it in when you want more artifact destruction because it can do both things. The deck feels like it's running a lot of the cheap cards and not as many of the payoffs. Like it's only running 7 payoffs, which seems low to me, right?
It's probably fine. Like, I mean, the payoffs cascade. Or actually, no, you have the tutor, right? You have Call of the Dragon to find your other payoffs.
So you're functionally 11 payoffs, but that still seems really low. You're going to have a lot of these hands that are like basically accelerant,
and then, like, to full tool as well.
Hey, can you repeat that, please?
Throat Singer can filter as well, and then PFA is also like fine if you have excess mana. It's not as good as like a Prince of Stars or Scourge, but
it's good. You also don't get the discount via like Dragon Soul or Kamada on it, which is a little bit unfortunate. Like, I think it is the Memento is going to be harder to pull off in this deck.
So,
I know.
Giant Bullet says in chat that purple is the one who built the deck. So don't.
Gotcha.
So I guess
I will take the complaints up with purple then. But yeah, I feel like this deck, there's going to be some number of hands where if you get hand attacked once, you don't have any top end, and you're going to hope to just like beat them to death with like 1/2s and 2/2s, and like some percentage of time that's going to work, so it's fine. But that does worry me a little bit. And yeah, I think Throat Singer. I think any circumstance where Throat Singer is like just rummaging for you, your opponent just has like infinite time to breathe there. It feels like a rough spot to be in.
All right, so since it's a purple deck, I'm obligated to give it 5 chili peppers. So what do you what about your ranking?
I think I'm leaning more towards 5 rather than 6. I just see a lot more ways this deck can go badly. But I think if Lena high rolls a bunch of people, like when this deck high rolls, I don't think it's going to feel like it was possible to beat it after. Like if there's turn 1 Dragon Soul into turn 2 Kamada into turn 2 Stars, your opponent probably should just like, I don't know, leave the country. I don't think there's a way to like emotionally recover from that.
Yeah, certainly. I see what's going on in the background there.
I turned. I have a little like plastic thing full of dice, and I turned it upside down, and the lid fell off. And now there's a lot of dice on the ground. I have a new fun activity.
I have one of those. This is why you get like those fancy deck boxes with the little dice compartment.
I don't even use these dice. They just sit in my room.
Okay.
I don't use them at all.
But do they need to be so loud?
Do they need to be so loud? I'll turn down my dice for you, Rick.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so
inconsiderate, honestly.
So yeah, pick anything you wanted to say there while I was distracted.
Not really.
Okay.
I think this deck, like, when it does its thing, it does its thing, and when it doesn't do its thing, it's a little sad, and I'm a little bit worried it is more likely to fail to do the thing.
All right, and that is everyone, surprisingly. So yeah, looking at all the rankings.
Do you have like a section for just quickly going over stuff at the end? Yeah.
Pipsqueak, who do you think is most favored right now, or who would you be betting on?
Looking at the decks people brought, I do think that Pickle Shaper, there's less of the decks that I think it wants to be preying on running around. There still are like some decks that it's like really favored into, and I think the deck has a good enough linear plan that it's fine. But there's not a lot of people playing small creature decks that can just say, okay, Flare Blitz, your life is over. I think if I had to pick a deck here to like play, I think unfortunately most of the I think I'd probably grab Casino Scam.
Really?
The amount of counter magic here is like at an all-time low. The amount of like really fast linear decks is at an all-time low. Like there's a lot of people who have these engines that they're looking to set up, and if you just say cool engine, turn 4 combo kill you, like I think that's good. I think you'd want to be doing that.
Okay, just another question. Do you think Mono Red Storm would be viable whatsoever in this meta?
In this GP or in the format?
Yeah, in this
Sorry.
GP.
I don't know what the current Mono Red Storm decks look like. How reliably do they turn 3 kill?
Pretty much, you can like almost. If your opponent doesn't have if your opponent doesn't have interaction, I'd say like 99% of the time.
Okay, does
The
interaction
keyword
include creature removal?
Yeah, interaction is creature removal or counter spells for your starter on turn 3.
I would not want to bring. Like I think people have enough ways of like killing a random creature. I don't know. I think it'd be fine. I think I would rather be on Mono Red Storm in this GP than Blue Black Reanimator by a pretty large margin. But I think Casino Scam being able to be a little bit interacty when it needs to, obviously makes me biased towards it.
I mean, Mono Red Storm, like, if you're I don't know. Wait, I think like Mono Red Storm is something that is going to be vulnerable to creature removal early on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff it's doing early on creature removal.
Council, vote for Wayward Impulse. I need to make Mono Red Storm good.
And there are relatively few things that are good at dealing with massive creatures, I think. I'd probably rather be on Reanimator this particular GP from a quick look over.
Also a Pip, random question, but do you think Scribble's Abzan control deck is favored against the Fickle Shaper decks because it has Rot?
I think it does. It also has like some decent hand attack, which helps. I think the deck that's trying to most of the time win off of Planeswalkers is a little bit sad versus the Fickle Shaper decks that can burn those Planeswalkers to death. But Scribble's deck mostly just completely dodges the stupid O-Ring whose name I've already forgotten.
Beyond the Veil.
Beyond the Veil.
You can tell I've not been playing MSEM recently. But I don't know how favored it is, but I think it definitely seems like it has some decent game there. I do think that Esper Kalen is probably better into it than Fickle Shaper is.
Yeah, well, assuming Esper Kalen gets the right draws, because that deck's just...
There's also some asterisk.
Yeah.
I think that the worst possible matchup for this GP from a commentary perspective is 100% Blue-Green Turbofog versus Grixis Control.
That would be a matchup.
Well, I want it to happen to punish both players.
Well,
I think if you were ever offered an opportunity to cast that game, you should interpret it as a death threat and react accordingly.
No, actually, it is an interesting commentary though, because like it's not super clear what the matchup will be like. Right?
You guys should watch my commentary of Herald versus Miss Maeve from a couple GPs ago. I literally just gave up and started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Mid-game.
On commentary too? Like,
on commentary. I literally comment about what's going on in my game of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Multi-screen setup. One monitor, Master Duel. One monitor, Turbo Fog.
I was playing Master Duel on my phone, but yeah.
One monitor, Subway Surfers. The way I can get through it.
One monitor, slime video.
Yeah, don't forget that we also have
instead of commentary.
We also have a commentary opportunity for a 100 card mirror.
But no, actually, that's actually really interesting though, right? Because
that would actually be cool. Yeah, that's actually.
Yeah, but you actually have to explain the lines.
And no, I'll just watch the players do the lines and then explain what happened afterwards.
I don't know the lines.
Then why are you playing? Or wait, are you the one who's playing the deck? No, you're not, right?
No, I'm
Yeah,
playing.
what did y'all think about my Polgek deck?
Oh, we liked it a lot. We found some stuff that's in. Pep, do you want to like just restate what you said for Neon?
Tip is gone. I'll go rewatch the
Okay,
VOD.
so I think like
Oh,
our
yeah.
main feedback is
It's
that
basically like
yeah, you can go on
this
after.
isn't a deck that's designed to best utilize Into C's Masterpiece. Like it's fine, but like ideally an Into C's Masterpiece deck is just shitting out artifact and enchantment tokens. Like if it's like a 3-mana 4/4 that's like purely fine. There's probably something else that could go in that slot.
Yeah, it's a
And also, I
It's
remember
a-
another thing that got brought up is that going Grixis would give you access to a lot of cards that can like really lock your opponent out with Polgak.
right. I get that.
I think those were the two main comments.
No,
Yeah, I think this deck is meant to be a little bit more fast than that. The reason I have Masterpiece not as a become massive hit for 6 gore trillion, but just as something that is a valuable clock, and I have a lot of ways of cloning it too.
I mean that's fair, I guess.
It works. It fits its role in the deck as just sort of like a finisher and a really good blocker very well.
Yeah, like our main feedback was just that this deck does not look like a deck that is able to finish the game quickly. So why are you running Masterpiece? Because like, what do you actually have for beatdown? If you look at it.
Well, I mean, Masterpiece is the beatdown.
Yeah, but just like Masterpiece on its own with no
I also
backup.
have
Heraldry is the
my
beatdown.
1/1s off of the. I mean, it's
Yeah.
mid-range, right? I have my my. Hold on, I gotta go back here. Yeah, I mean it's the 1/1s off of the module. The
Chronicles, Embodied Soul. Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Chronicles is something. Embodied Soul is definitely a clock. Offering Pool definitely gets those tokens bigger. Heraldry is a clock. Yeah. Logic Module can be a clock if, my opponent plays something cool, I guess.
I honestly think that this is fine to run Masterpiece. Like, I can definitely see why you wouldn't want to run it, though.
No, I get that. It's just, it's also because I have 4 enchantment lands that mean that Masterpiece is going to be like,
Oh yeah,
probably a 4/4.
You're
when you
right.
play
Yeah.
it, and it just gets bigger throughout the game.
Yes, and then the other comment was, if you went into black, you can play down with the ship and then copy with Mirror and Polgak during your opponent's draw step, and draw step block your opponent.
I think Masterpiece makes sense as like a tax on the opponent's resources.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
It does have ward as well.
Yeah, that too.
Anyway, yeah, just to quickly mention, did anyone note the difference between mine and...
Oh yeah, we did.
Garrow's deck?
Why are you running these one-of spells for in your deck?
You can fetch them.
With what?
Wait, which particular one-off spells?
The Tally's Council?
The Tally's Council you can fetch with Anran's Radical.
Ah, right.
Anran's Radical.
I
Anran's
forgot.
Radical.
Yeah, that's actually that's a pretty good reason to run that, and then you can train it
Yeah.
into the. I see. Yeah. Okay. Well, we completely
And you can
missed it.
use that to get the Conquer Psyche. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are you? I wonder if you could ever justify that one. I forget what it's called, but that one big extra turn spell, the 9 blue.
Temporal manipulation.
No. Temporal Manipulation never works.
Temporal manipulation is like a Portal 3 Kingdoms card or something.
Temporal
No,
insight.
Manipulation.
Yeah, temporal. I wonder if you could get away with that as a one-up for Anran's.
You cannot make triple blur.
Yeah, you can't. Like this deck has acceptable mana. What? Using Tali? Wait, does that work?
Yeah, it works.
Huh.
Because Tali's had Man of Any Colour now.
Okay, yeah, but
After
then
it was buffed to be effectual by Unman's Radical.
yeah, but then you're playing 5 mana for an extra turn, and at that point you're just breaking even.
True.
Yeah. I love calling every card nerf a buff.
Okay, let's go over. I think we should just. What are the recent nerfs? Beyond the Veil. Okay, how do we make Beyond the Veil a buff?
The
If you phase out your own land through a different card, it can now phase back in
no.
one side.
Do those except exist in the
It
format?
involves phasing it out.
If you're traitor.
No, you phase it out through something like a time standstill. But that's just a nerf anyway, because now you don't get to landlock them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not even really a nerf. I mean, it is a nerf. It does make the card worse, but it doesn't make the card worse in the ways that's
Stops the
actually being
landlock.
used.
It's a bug
It
fix.
stops
I
the
mean,
landlock.
Ricky was using it that way in Esper Caitlyn.
Yeah, but not
That
the.
wasn't something that I saw in League or in GP.
No, I was running a
Although,
version with
you might
time
have ran in
standstill
League.
in League because I didn't discover
And
that
he beat me
combo
with it.
during the GP.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I ran that combo in my GP deck, I probably would have had a way better chance against Splash Cat.
Forked Pillar.
Death Shadow.
I always thought this was a cannon card. I always thought this was a cannon card for some reason.
Embercore Grazer.
Antelope Tribal.
Okay.
Best tribe.
Legitification, was that the other one? Yeah, you said it was because it prevents you from decking.
Yeah, if you mill out, you don't draw.
Yeah.
Think about it. I wonder. I feel like I don't know. Tara Doom Blessed. Personally, after seeing the older version, I like it more, but it's a designer change, so and it didn't really see play. So
Yeah. Anyways, we should probably end the stream now because we're kind of going rambling now. So, anyways, for anyone who's still watching, thanks for watching us, and we'll end the stream now. Bye, guys.
bye.